According to the World Report on Disability, many persons with disabilities are unable to go to school or finish schooling, have poorer health condition, either unemployed or underemployed. The National Disability Survey conducted in 2016 by Philippine Statistics Authority shows the same situation. Even the report of DSWD in 2019, which is based on their listahanan data, indicated that 3 out of 5 children with disabilities are not in school, and 69% of adults with disabilities are unemployed. Can be that the situation of persons with disabilities is getting worse. I ask because in 2013 case study report, only 2 out of 5 children with disabilities are not attending school. The marginalization of persons with disabilities is a result of long-standing issue on the right to access. The right to access requires accessibility that are based on universal design and access to affordable and appropriate disability support services. These are preconditioned for participation and inclusion. Up to this point, accessibility law is poorly implemented. Furthermore, the accessibility law requires amendments to clearly indicate that all facilities and services should be made accessible to persons with disabilities, not only the built-in environment, but particularly the public transportation, information, and communication. Access to disability support services is very important to persons with disabilities. Without appropriate assistive device, such as wheelchair, how can persons with disabilities access education or look for a job and participate to different aspects of socioeconomic life? There are persons with disabilities who requires personal assistance to support them to live independently and be included in the community. They too need support. Deaf also requires sign language interpreters to access information and to communicate. There are specific support services that are needed by persons with disabilities, and what I mentioned are just few of the examples. We should develop these support services as this is the major barriers to participation and inclusion of persons with disabilities. There is an increased recognition of the important role of social protection in enhancing the rights of vulnerable people. For people with disabilities, it is a tool to cover disability-related extra costs. These extra costs are the major barriers and the major drivers of poverty. Many persons with disabilities are unable to participate in community life because of this. This extra cost includes the cost of assistive devices, including its maintenance, personal assistance, sign language, maintenance medicines, and for their hygiene, and many other disability-related needs. Social protection, when correctly designed, will support people in the enjoyment of their rights and to improve access to their basic needs. For people with disabilities, disability support services is one of our basic needs. Without it, as a precondition to our participation, we will not be able to enjoy the same opportunity as other people uh, with no disability are enjoying. Social protection can improve access to disability support services by subsidizing the cost of assistive devices, personal assistance service, sign language interpretation service, and other disability support services. Social protection also plays a vital role in addressing barriers faced by persons with disabilities because of lack of accessibility. For example, 20% discount on transportation fare is not sufficient for a person using wheelchair who rely on using taxi because buses, jeepney, and tricycle is not accessible. In other countries like South Korea, the state heavily subsidizes the cost of transportation service to immediately address the accessibility issue on public transportation. In Thailand, a law was passed by government to provide personal assistance service for persons with significant disability. Many low and middle income countries have disability allowance to support persons with disabilities. These countries include Thailand, Nepal, Timor-Leste, and many others. In terms of economy, Philippines is much better than Timor-Leste and Nepal. We are actually a middle income country, and if there is no pandemic, we could have been the upper middle level of in terms of income. Yet, our social protection spending is so much lower when compared to other countries' spending on disability support. For example, the SWD's budget line assistance to persons with disabilities and older persons remains at a meager amount despite demands from the disability sector to increase the budget to address caps on services. From about 10 million pesos in 2010, it is just 23 million pesos in 2020. If we divide it to 1.4 million Filipinos with disabilities, it is just 16 pesos for each of one of us. We can afford the cost of social protection if we invest enough, and social protection system is designed to facilitate participation and inclusion of all vulnerable people. It will result to a more productive society, which in the end will further build our economy.